Alright guys, welcome back to another horror room movie review, and today is the start of a brand new series, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. This is one of my favorite horror movie series, if not my favorite of all of them. Just something about the concept of this is just really creepy to me. And I've mentioned this before, some people are freaked out by different stuff. Some people are freaked out by Exorcist movies, some people are freaked out by just the haunted house type movies, like Amityville Horror. I know a lot of people find that to be really creepy, but for me, there's just something realistic, as crazy as it sounds, about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, especially the first movie. Later on, it does get kind of goofy, but the first movie definitely is very creepy, and it's based off of the serial killer Ed Gein, who killed people. Well, he didn't kill that many people, but he would take body parts from the graveyard and like fix his house up, make couches out of skin and weird crap like that. And they did that in this movie. They took a lot of that and put it in this movie, and it makes you feel like you could be out somewhere on the highway, and there's some house way out in the middle of nowhere, and this crazy family lives there, and that could happen. So when you watch these movies, you get kind of this weird, sick feeling. I remember the first time I watched this movie, I found it to be really disturbing. I've seen it a few times since then. The rest of the movies, I have seen all of them, but it's been a while. I know the second one does really kind of get goofy in some parts, but it still has a lot of disturbing stuff. The third movie wasn't nearly as good, and then you have Generation with Matthew McConaughey, and that's just a whole different thing right there. But the first movie is definitely a classic movie, just very well done. It only had a budget of $300,000. It made $30 million back, and this movie came out in 1974, still holds up today. I think I read on Wikipedia, Tobe Hooper wanted to tone down the gore, limit the gore, so that the movie could get a PG rating. And that's just completely insane to me. But yeah, I really do love this movie. I really love this franchise. It's just a classic series. And Leatherface is definitely one of the creepiest figures, I have to say. So the movie opens up with the whole true story opening, where they say it's based on true events. And I know I've said this before in movies like Paranormal Activity and The Possession. They say that, and they probably mean very, very loosely based, because the only thing about this was the Ed Gein situation, and I think he killed 2 people, maybe 3, I can't really remember. But his big deal was he had all these body parts in his house that he stole from the graveyard. That's about it. That's all this movie has in common with anything real ever happening. So no, it's completely fake. But it starts out with that, and it says you're going to watch this crazy true story that took place in 1973, and it opens up and we see these like 2 dead bodies. Someone's been stealing bodies from the cemetery and posing them. We see the van full of kids. There's these 5 kids. That's your cast of victims for this movie. Franklin, one of them, is in a wheelchair, and he falls down a hill in the beginning of the movie. And they get to the cemetery because they want to find out if Sarah's grandfather is buried there. Their grandfather, Franklin and Sarah's grandfather, died, and they're coming back to see his old house, take a look around, and they stop by the graveyard. There's this one drunk guy there who says, "Things happened in that house. I see things." I thought that was just hilarious. But Franklin's talking about how they used to kill cows at the slaughterhouse as they drive by it. This guy, his character is it is very annoying, the Franklin character. And there's just something about it. Everything he says is just so funny. But he's talking about how now the slaughterhouse, they used to use the hammer, but now they use an air gun. And he makes the noises, boom, ch, boom, ch. And he just keeps going on and on about it. And they pick up a hitchhiker. And this reminds me of Dumb and Dumber. The scene where they're driving by and they see a hitchhiker And I think it's Jim Carrey says, "Normally I don't pick up hitchhikers, but I'm going to go with my instincts on this one." And it just happens to be the one guy out there who's trying to kill them. And that's what this reminded me of. So they pick up this crazy hitchhiker. He's talking about the slaughterhouse. He takes Franklin's knife and just cuts his own hand, freaking out the entire, kids in the van. He takes Franklin's picture, and he asks if they want to come over for supper, but they tell him they can't. And he burns the picture when Franklin refuses to buy it, and then he pulls out a razor and cuts Franklin's arm. So he jumps out of the van. They're freaked out about it. He's kicking the van as it pulls away. He's rubbing blood on the side of the van. And they get to a gas station, and the owner of the gas station tells them that he doesn't actually have any gas. He's waiting on the transport, which is supposed to be there later in the day. And Franklin tells him about his grandfather's house, and the owner is instantly trying to keep them away from this place. He's telling them they shouldn't go up there and all of this stuff. But I was wondering, after this happened and they're talking to this owner, if the van, like the way the guy rubbed blood on the van, if that was a way to mark it or something, so that the other people would know when they see the van, like, hey, we're going to get these people. But they get some barbecue when they leave. They decide to go to the house anyway, of course. And they get to the old house. They're looking around. Franklin has his big freak out moment when he hears all the other people having fun. He freaks out and he's mocking them, laughing. It was a really funny scene. I'm sure it's on YouTube, just this freak out scene alone. But so Kirk and his girlfriend head off to the watering hole. But on their way, they see another house, and they hear a generator going. So they walk up to see if they can buy some gas from this house, and they see all the cars, but they don't think anything of it. And of course, it's the cars of all the victims that this family has killed over the years, kind of like building up all these cars and bones and other crap around the house. But they knock on the door, and no one answers. So Kirk just walks into their damn house. And the girl goes and walks around the yard. She's away. And while she's away, Leatherface pops out, hits Kirk in the head with a hammer, and he starts going into convulsions, which is what Franklin was talking about the cows doing back at the slaughterhouse. So I thought that was kind of a cool scene. And then he just drags him in and slams the steel door behind him. Really creepy. That's one of the things I remember about the first time I watched this movie, just how creepy that scene was. So the girl comes in the house, she's looking for Kirk, and she finds a room full of bones. There's a couch made of bones and all this other stuff, like human arm bones and stuff. She tries to leave, but Leatherface catches her, takes her into the steel door room, and puts her on a meat hook. And then I think he's supposed to be cutting up Kirk's body with a chainsaw, but I guess because of the limited budget, or maybe Tobe Hooper not wanting to show a lot of gore, he doesn't. He just kind of walks around. I don't know what he was supposed to be doing here, but I assume he's supposed to be cutting up Kirk. So Jerry, the other guy, he decides to go look for the others. So Sarah and Franklin stay behind at their grandfather's house, and Franklin's still freaking out about the hitchhiker following them. Is he going to find us? Do you think he could follow us here? He keeps going on and on about it. So Jerry gets to the house, Leatherface's house, and guess what? He just walks right in, and he hears a noise in the freezer, and the girl who was put on the meat hook just pops out, and she's freaking out. Leatherface comes in, hits him in the head with a meat tenderizer, and then puts the girl back in the freezer. So now it's nighttime. Franklin doesn't want to give Sarah the flashlight to go look for the others. They can't leave because Jerry has the keys, and they decide they're just going to head off together to go find the others. This was really funny for some reason. I think it was just Franklin's complaining the entire time, but I thought it was funny. Leatherface shows up and kills Franklin with the chainsaw. I guess he just shows up and instantly cranks it and kills him, because I have no idea how you sneak up on someone with a chainsaw. But he managed to do that. So Sarah runs through the woods. Leatherface is chasing her. She runs into the house. We see Grandpa and Grandma who appear to be dead. And Leatherface cuts the front door down, and she jumps out the second floor window. She makes it to the gas station, and the store owner goes to get his truck, and she realizes while he's gone, he's one of them. So, this was weird to me, because I'm trying to figure out here why he was trying to keep them away from the house if he's one of them, but I don't know. So she gets to the gas station. She finds out he's one of them. He beats her with a broom, and it was kind of goofy, but it did break, so he's beating her with the handle of it at least, but it does knock her out. And he ties her up, puts her in a potato sack. He drives her back to the house, and on the way we see the hitchhiker. And the gas station owner gets out of the truck, and he starts hitting the hitchhiker. And we find out that he's the one who's been taking bodies from the graveyard and posing them. And the gas station owner is pissed off because he almost got caught. So he's hitting him with the broom handle. But they go in the house, and then he's pissed off at Leatherface for what he did to the front door, which was also funny. So they tie Sarah up, and they bring down Grandpa for supper. They cut Sarah's finger, and Grandpa's creepy ass sucks the blood out of her finger, and we find out that he's actually alive. This was insanely disturbing for me. This guy looks like paper mache, and when you see him move, it's just really, really creepy. And then we get the dinner scene, which is easily the creepiest part of this entire movie. And that's saying a lot, because it is a disturbing movie. But at this dinner scene, it shows a lot of her just reacting. For example, the hitchhiker's yelling at her, making fun of her for crying. Leatherface and the hitchhiker, when she screams, they start screaming. And you just get this feeling of dread. Like she's trapped in this house with absolutely no way to escape. And even if she did, there's still the gas station owner. You don't know who else could be in on it. And it's just a really, just a dirty feeling of what's going on here. And it shows a close-up of her eyes and everything. It was just a really, really creepy scene. So Grandpa, they decide, because he was the best at the slaughterhouse with hitting the cows with the hammer, that they're going to let Grandpa get this kill, who's probably like 120, and they pull Sarah over this bucket, and they put a hammer in his head, and the gas station owner's like, don't worry, it's going to be quick, he was the best. And of course, he can't even hold the hammer, so this entire scene consists of Leatherface putting the hammer in his hand, picking his hand up, and then tossing the hammer at this girl's head. Really sick. But eventually she gets up and just takes off. She jumps out another window and just starts running. And she makes it to the highway. The hitchhiker and Leatherface are chasing after her. The hitchhiker's faster. And she makes it to the highway, and the hitchhiker gets hit by an 18-wheeler. So Leatherface shows up, and he's chasing after her, and the 18-wheeler, the driver, throws a wrench and hits Leatherface in the head with it. As he falls, his chainsaw kind of cuts his leg. So the 18-wheeler, the truck driver, just takes off running. He actually just vanishes. I don't know where the hell this guy goes, but he just takes off. Another pickup truck shows up, and Sarah is able to jump in the back of it, and she gets away. She's covered in blood. She's screaming, she's freaking out, and she makes it. And the last thing we see is Leatherface left behind, swinging his chainsaw and dancing like Gigi Allen. It was just really a great scene. And he's wearing the suit from the dinner and the mask and everything, of course, and just swinging the chainsaw. And I thought that was a really great way to end the movie. So yeah, that was it. That is the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre from 1974. Definitely a classic movie. If you haven't seen it, it's worth watching. I mean, it's what started all of the, the newer movies, and there's a new movie coming out in January next year. That's Texas Chainsaw 3D or something like that. Really looking forward to that one. But yeah, it's just a really good franchise because it does... it does blend like realistic stuff with kind of over-the-top characters for the family, but still really good. So that's it. That's my first review of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre series. I'm going to go through every movie, 1, 2, 3, Generation, the two newer movies, and then 3D when it comes out. Also, I was thinking, because it is similar, it even has Bill Moseley from who played Chop Top, who also plays Otis in House of a Thousand Corpses. Because the House of a Thousand Corpses is so similar to Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I figured I would just go ahead and do that movie and Devil's Rejects also at the end of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre series review. I really like House of a Thousand Corpses, and I thought Rob Zombie did a great job with both movies. Devil's Rejects isn't like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but because it is the same characters, I figured I'd go ahead and do videos for those two movies also. So, hope you guys like this video. Leave your thoughts on this series in the comments below, and thanks for watching.